On December 4th, 2021, the fundraiser, Meet the Candidate for Trinity County Sheriff Jayme Bayley, was provided to the local residents who were honored to attend. Jayme Bayley is the clear choice for the 2022 Trinity County Sheriff because she promotes loyalty, integrity, and accountability.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know my name, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jayme Bayley, and I want to be your next sheriff. I would like to thank you all for being here and sharing this meal with me. I would like to thank my family and friends who are here helping me today. I would like to thank my Aunt Tia for cooking this amazing meal. Yes. I know she doesn't want any recognition, but she deserves it. All right, so this is my first speaking format where I'm up here in front of all of you, and so please be gentle. Now this says there are many familiar faces, but there's all familiar faces here. But I would like to tell you a little bit about me and my 24+ year law enforcement career. I'm 45 years old, and I graduated high school here in Hayford. After graduating, I moved to Reading to attend school at Shasta College, and I worked down there for a little bit. I made my way back to Hayford, where I did some coaching before I was hired by the Trinity County Sheriff's Department in November of 1998. I worked as a correctional officer and a dispatcher for 6 years. I also took a leave of absence during that time and put myself through the police academy. I applied for and was hired by the Anderson Police Department in January of 2005. I worked for 2 years in Anderson as a police officer and was also a school resource officer, all the while knowing I wanted to come back to Trinity. In January of 2007, I was given an opportunity to return to Trinity County as a deputy sheriff. I worked in patrol until 2011, when I was assigned to the Trinity County's first code enforcement officer position. I was a part of the implementation and procedure-making process of the position, although it has changed drastically since. In 2010, I completed my associate's degree in general studies with an emphasis in public safety and services. In 2013, I was assigned to the detectives division. This was a position that I'd wanted to be in for a long time. I investigated a multitude of types of crimes, but my primary assignment was sex crimes. In 2014, I was promoted to frontline supervisor as a corporal. In late 2017, I was reassigned back to the patrol division, and that's my current assignment. I have been assigned to many extra duties over the years, to include the Trinity County's communications coordinator and point of contact, and I've been in that position since 2010. I'm a system administrator for our CAD and reporting system inside the department, and I'm in charge of our department's monthly review policy, just to name a few. Okay, so many have asked why I'm running for sheriff. It's change. We need change. We need transparency. We need accountability. We need consistency. We need integrity. We need leadership. We need a sheriff who's going to work with the community to try to find solutions to the current issues as they come up. We need a sheriff who's going to communicate with and listen to you, the community members. We need a sheriff who's going to protect and serve Trinity County. It may be a little cliche, but it's what I believe in. I know promises have been made to you. Shoot, they've been made to me too, and we've all been let down. If elected, I will serve the citizens of Trinity County by working with the Board of Supervisors and other government agencies to be the leader this community deserves. I'm very much a supporter of the Second Amendment. If you are lawful and able to possess a concealed weapons permit, I don't see a reason why I should stand in your way. I will abide by the guidelines which I am bound by, set forth by the state of California and the United States Constitution. These are difficult times. We have all heard how broke the county is, how short-staffed we are for years and years. And it's true. But I believe the opportunity is now to make a change. The marijuana industry is changing and moving towards more legal grows. And I'm in favor of people coming into our communities and becoming a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. There is much that can be done with the code enforcement position, with someone who will stand up and fight for the county, for the people of this county. There is, and will be monies available to hire more deputies if the division was ran more efficiently. I don't support illegal marijuana operations, which are detrimental to our forest land and environment. Water diversions and illegal land conversions will continue to be a focal point under my administration. The major crimes that follow these illegal operations have caused our communities to be unsafe for both the residents and visitors alike. When monies are available, I will make sure the focus will include updated training for our deputies to investigate the major crimes against persons. Now please know that I cannot make these changes overnight, but that I will do my best to remain focused on the priorities that benefit and protect all of Trinity County. With that being said, all of you out there, what I would like to do today is not stand up here and tell you what I think you want to hear, but to give you your voice back. I would like you to use the 3x5 cards, which some of you have already done, and write down your questions, and I will do my best to answer them.
Is there vodka in there?
I wish. There is not, but I wish.
Put that on the 3x5. Yeah. Is there vodka in there?
That is no. Okay. So I'm going to leave Nancy Jackson's questions for last, because they're by far the most challenging things. So, mix these up a little. What are your thoughts about all of the homeless? How would you address the compound, quote unquote, and similar junky areas? So, first the homeless. We know that the majority of them come and go with the grows. We typically call them terminates. And I feel like there's ways to combat them being here. Right now, no one bothers them. They are at will, free to do what they please, where they please, at any time. If they were just coming here, going to a grow, doing their business, and not stealing from people, and not panhandling in front of our stores and stuff like that, then I guess obviously they wouldn't be as homeless. But one of my ideas for those people was basically to contact them as law enforcement, as police officers. We obviously have to, by law, have probable cause to do a search on a person. But with that, when you make contacts with people, they start out as consensual contacts. A lot of time, these people give us reason for searches, whether it be through conversation because they're on probation already, or whatever. Well, what's not happening a lot right now is when we contact people, we're not getting those searches. We're not taking their drugs, we're not taking their paraphernalia. We're not getting them on what we call summary probation, which allows us to search them at any time after they're on probation. And so my idea is if we go out, we make these contacts, and the consensual contacts turn into, we build probable cause to get a search, and we get someone who's got methamphetamine, or maybe some heroin, and some pipes, or whatever they use to smoke, or whatever they use for their drugs with. Bring them to jail. Now right now, our jail can't keep them. Our jail is completely full. Homicides, attempt homicides, child molest, violent felonies. That's what's there. Not letting those guys go for a possession of meth or, you know. But getting them there, getting them to the jail, getting them booked, getting them documented as to who they are, what they look like, and then getting them to court. So they can either be released on their own recognizance with search terms, or at some point they'll be sentenced to basically no time in jail, but they will be given these summary probation terms. Once they have these search terms, they can be contacted anytime. If you're standing in a corner and every time a cop sees you, they take your meth, and they take your pipe, and they take your heroin, or they take whatever you've got, you gonna stick around? Probably not. No, we do have some locals. I mean, over in Weaverville, I know their names. You know, over here, I don't necessarily know their names. We have some locals. They're not going anywhere. How do we combat that? That's a tougher question because I can't run those people off. They've got no place to go. You know, but the next part of this question has to do with the compound, and that's where a lot of our locals are hanging out. So when I worked in code enforcement in 2011 and 2012, I dealt with a couple of pieces of property that were similar. Not this bad. This is by far the worst I've ever seen. But there was a couple of properties that I dealt with. And ultimately, it was me, the code enforcement officer, going out, contacting them, citing them, forcing the issue of you've got to clean this up, you've got to clean this up, bugging them. These people don't want cops coming to their house. It doesn't matter whether it's a junkyard or the compound or just somebody's property that has a lot of stuff on it. They don't want us there. We keep showing up. It's kind of the same thing with the homeless. You know, they don't want us there. They don't want us to bug them. They're going to move along. The compound, God, it is so far gone right now. Like, the amount of money that it's going to take to clean that up is crazy. But the one thing that could be happening right now is not happening. Is I don't even know how long ago it was, 2 years ago, when code enforcement went out there and tried to kick everybody off and drove away and never came back. Never came back. If you drive away and say, I'll be back in 2 days, then you got to be back in 2 days.
Amen.
You've got to go back, and you've got to keep going back. And if you have to kick somebody off the property every single day until they leave and don't come back, then that's what we have to do. And that's a part of, like in my speech, the accountability, the consistency. Right now, our code enforcement division is not being held accountable for anything, but especially anything that doesn't have anything to do with marijuana. When I was a code enforcement officer, I wrote citations for trash. I wrote citations for illegal septic. I wrote citations for illegal camping. I wrote all these. Now, at the time, there was a deputy DA at the DA's office that did misdemeanor crimes. And so all of the code enforcement charges, crimes, are misdemeanors. And they're all county ordinances. But we were able to deal with those. We went in, brought people into court. And ultimately it comes down to fines. And I mean, if they don't have the money, how can they pay fines? But it happened. That's the crazy thing. Like, I literally had people who had huge pieces of property with trash and junk all over it that cleaned them up. They didn't want us to be there, and so they did what they had to do. I can't say that every single person is going to respond that same way, but I had pretty good success with that in many different places, and a lot of them were here to pay for it, but not all of them. So, I mean, those are things where the sheriff has to know that these things are going on, though, and I just don't even think he knows. And if he does, it's definitely not a priority. Marijuana is a priority.
I feel as though he doesn't want to hear
What he doesn't know.
we have to say.
I emailed him. He's never yet responded to that.
I don't think it's just locals that are in the compound.
No. There's others too. But every time I put in a compound, every single one of them are locals.
Yeah.
And some stragglers here and there.
But
But
actually, it's not even the owner. The owner doesn't live there. Lives down the street from you. Understand?
the one owner died. Isn't the
Right.
the
The
wife?
lives down the street.
Oh, the wife has passed away now too.
So
yeah.
the other house down the street by my house is empty too. Somebody's there.
I don't know. I knew the old man
Oh.
had passed away.
DA?
The sister was supposed to be trying to take it back.
Okay. So
But
yeah,
she
the
doesn't
last-
live here.
No.
She doesn't live here.
No, she doesn't live here, but she's trying to get it back into her name. Because it was falsely signed over to that.
To the one lady
Yeah.
that is always on the
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, she wrote the paper, so.
Yeah.
They have the property in the house too, right?
Yeah.
They got those.
Yeah, that's what it is. I couldn't think of her name, but that's
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's holding the code enforcement division accountable. You're gonna go. Yes, marijuana is a part of it, but we've got all this other stuff too. When I was in code enforcement in the winter in the off season, there's properties, and the majority of them are in like southern Trinity and the outlying areas, but there's entire properties that have 2,000-3,000 square foot homes on them that have never been permitted, that were built on their own. They're paying property taxes for vacant land. We're paying property taxes for our homes and everything on the property, including the property, right? These guys are paying vacant land properties. What I would do is, the building department has a file with hundreds of these pieces of property. I basically would go out in the summertime, fly over the top of these houses, take pictures, and in the off season, when I wasn't doing marijuana, I wrote a quick report. I sent it to the DA. The DA, we also sent it to the clerk's office, Shannon White's office, and then I sent it down, and then they would do their report on it, and then they would send it to the tax collector, and we would turn that into a piece of property where they weren't paying taxes on vacant land. It's basically, in a roundabout way, stealing from Trinity County because you're not paying your share. Not everyone likes that idea. It's usually the people who have unpermitted homes on their, But as far as I'm concerned, if I have to pay my fair share, so should everybody else.
And it's also contaminating the waterway because it goes down through the creek.
If they're not doing things correctly, yes. Okay, so what is your thoughts on having a deputy on this side of Trinity County to help with people's needs and code enforcement? So, we have 3 living in Hayfork right now. Unfortunately, we just received notice on Friday that one of them is putting in his 2 weeks notice and is moving to Montana. So we're down to 2. We used to have one in southern Trinity. Since he left, that position hasn't been, resident position hasn't been refilled. And it's ultimately because finding someone to move to southern Trinity is difficult all on its own. There's absolutely nothing there. So if you have a wife or a family, it's tough to get people to move to that remote of an area. As far as helping with people's needs, and code enforcement, I think all of it just stems to holding all of our officers accountable and being consistent. We have deputies who are working their butts off right now. We have deputies who are doing absolutely nothing. We don't have the staffing to allow that to happen. We only have 2 guys on the street, and if you have 2 people on the street and one of them's not doing their job, now you're down to 1 for the whole county.
Well, is that the sheriff's responsibility to make sure people are doing their work, like is
Yes.
the sheriff overseeing?
Absolutely. Ultimately, it is absolutely his job. Specifically, is he going and talking to that guy? No. His undersheriff is talking to that guy's sergeant, and that sergeant is talking to those deputies specifically. But the sheriff has to know those things so that he can hold his sergeants accountable, so his sergeants can hold the deputies accountable.
He
That's
needs
not
to follow up.
Yeah, he needs to know. He needs to know that we have an officer in our department right now who's written 6 reports this year. 6 for the entire year. I've wrote 5 and I've been on light duty the whole year. 6 reports. 1 information only. It was a criminal, but it turned into an information only report. 4 boating citations and 2 miscellaneous officers where his vehicle got crashed into, and I think he hit a dog or something. That's what he's done this year. He's getting paid the same. He's a sergeant, and he's getting paid the same as the 3 other sergeants for working their butts off. Why is that okay?
It isn't.
He's assigned to the code enforcement position. He's one of the 3 code enforcement officers. only 2 code enforcement officers issued citations this year. Why? If the code enforcement money is what's going to help this county, why do we have 1 guy who's not even doing the job at all? You have to, as the sheriff, you have to know what your guys are doing or what they're not doing and why. We can't afford, we don't have enough people. We can't afford 1 guy to write 6 reports for an entire year. Be assigned and getting paid for by the code enforcement position and not issue a single code enforcement citation at all. It's not okay.
Pictured here are some local residents who attended the fundraiser. Meet the candidate for Trinity County Sheriff, Jayme Bayley. Here is another local resident who supported the candidate Jayme Bayley, but was busy so took some wonderful food to go. Here is another supporter with her therapy dog who still thinks he is a puppy.
Dominion voting machines in Trinity County. I've heard that. I'm assuming it's true. I've heard that those are our machines. I don't know if they still are, because I know that in the past year or 2, the elections department has gone through a bunch of changes. So I don't know if I'm assuming they changed to something different, because I don't know if we had Dominion before or if that's what we have now. But I know within the last couple of years that there have been made changes in the election department into their computer systems.
I could just call the election department. There's a number for an election department, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, whether they changed over to Dominion or if they've since changed away from Dominion. I'm sorry?
Jenna?
Yes, Shanna would know.
Yeah.
Whether that was the change and whether that was what was made to or from, I'm not sure. And it says Dominion voting machines in Trinity County, ? Shanna White, ? Are they both compromised? No. I mean, as far as the Dominion machines are concerned, I don't know how they work. I don't know how they would be compromised. But I don't believe the elections in Trinity County is compromised. I really don't. I know Shanna White personally. I've played softball with her for years. She's not compromised. I know she pisses some people off at times.
And she is doing her job.
But I don't know her to be dishonest. I really don't. I don't know her at any point. I think to a point where she's sometimes, I don't know, I would call myself at times, she's abrupt and blunt, and that turns people off at times. But I don't see Shanna or her elections office or recorder's office or all the offices that she holds, I don't see her being compromised. This last question. Also heard that you have 2 lawsuits against the Sheriff's Department. What for? It's only 1 lawsuit, and it's ultimately 2 years ago, come February, I found out that my immediate supervisor was saying some pretty horrible things about me. And I filed a sexual harassment, hostile work environment, defamation of character lawsuit against him and against Trinity County because they are responsible for him as a supervisor. That is still ongoing. The reason I did it, I mean, what was done to me and what was said about me, it definitely affected my career. And there's nothing I can do to change that. The reason that I stepped up and came forward and confronted this situation was to make sure that this doesn't happen again. It very much had to do with me being a female in the department. I very much believe 100% that that person had a problem with me in the sense of that I wasn't afraid of him. I was willing to stand up to him. I was willing to speak my mind. And for some reason, that was a threat, I guess. So yeah, I'm very much involved in that, and I'd do it again.
The person you're going to accuse is still in position?
So there was an internal investigation. There were a multitude of allegations that came about from the investigation, and both he and his wife, who was not my supervisor but was also an employee in another part of the department, were found guilty of 16 different allegations. He hasn't missed a day of work. He was not put off on administrative leave. He hasn't been demoted. He's no longer my supervisor, but he is free for all to be the difficult person that he is to anybody else.
And his wife.
And his wife, she is no longer with the department as of April of this year. She resigned and got a different job. She is a victim advocate.
Haven't they gotten into the 20th century yet?
Apparently not.
So he was found guilty, but nothing happened?
Correct. Not a day on the beach, not a promotion. Could have been fired.
Is that under the current sheriff?
That is under the current sheriff.
Couldn't come back and find him, but
One of the allegations of his, against his wife, was the theft of public funds. The sheriff knew about that. He didn't stop it. She was found, the allegation was found substantiated. There was no investigation. She was not held.
No
He had been-
prosecution?
Nothing. She was allowed to resign, and she's now working for another agency. It's one of the main reasons I'm running,
thank you, Jane.
because it can't stay this way.
And I'm sure you know more about everything that goes on than you can tell us. So
Yep.
thank you for everything that you do. Yeah, thanks for what you shared.
So nothing can be done about it.
Technically, I believe the very end of the investigation has not been finalized because of the lawsuit, and while there is a civil, while it's still in the civil courts, they can't finish the investigation, but it's ultimately, I don't foresee.
Would a judgment come down then maybe afterwards?
So it's my understanding that the civil side of things does not in turn force the sheriff to fire or demote or to order any sort of discipline. That's all up to the sheriff.
Does he know where the Marble Mountains are?
Yeah, tabloid.
Tina helps.
You need a nasty tabloid over here to come out.
She coming?
I don't know where she's. Tita?
Yeah.
I can tell her.
Are you on Facebook?
Okay. This is pretty personal. She might be on the top floor. Maybe. Ask her, she might not want to hear the answer.
Every department's going through the crud, you know.
Well, I
All
know
it
the
takes
last-
is just a little bit of honesty. If people would just be honest.
Put on their big boy pants.
That's right. Face the facts.
That's right. If you can't handle it,
Has to get off the porch.
Sorry. We graded sexual harassment for I, right?
Still do.
Okay. What, if anything, can be done to help find the missing people in Trinity County? This might be the most difficult question to answer, and I don't know if I have a good answer for it. I do believe that having fresh set of eyes look at current investigations into missing people has, in all over the country, has helped break cases. So having, a different detective or even maybe an outside agency take a look at the case. I don't know what the FBI's involvement has been in our current missing persons case, if they've had any involvement at all. I know the one FBI agent that I know personally has left the area, but when I was working in detectives, I was in a position, being in sex crimes, where I had quite a bit of contact with the FBI. And I had built a relationship with that FBI agent to the point where I could call him up and say, hey, I got this case, I need you to take a look at it. Hey, I got this case, I need your help on this. And that's kind of some of the working with other law enforcement agencies, other government agencies, to try to bring to Trinity County some different ways of doing things. And I think building relationships with other agencies, whether it be FBI, maybe that's not the right answer, or maybe it's the FBI agent that was there is gone now. Maybe the next FBI agent that comes back in, comes in, can be a fresh set of eyes and look at our investigations. We have a lot of missing people in Trinity County. I know some of it has to do with the illegal marijuana operations. I know multiple missing people have come up missing off of marijuana operations, but not all of them. Not all of them. So I just think it's, taking a look at the current investigation from a fresh vantage point, and just seeing if there's something that kicks with one person that just didn't kick with that other investigator. It's really, I don't know if it's a good enough answer, but it's really the only thing that I can think of at this point. Because with a lot of these investigations, whatever evidence was collected at the time is all we have, if any. And there's nothing left, to collect. So that's the only thing I can think of.
I have a question about that, Jayme. So, do any of the cold cases ever get reopened? Or are they just like on a shelf just hanging out because we don't have the staff to look into those yet?
Honestly, right now we have one detective. He barely has time to do his own cases, let alone. And now we're so short-staffed, and like losing another guy, it's crazy. We need at least one more detective to even begin to think about truly investigating our current cases. But that doesn't mean someone can't come in, like I said, an FBI agent, or maybe a retired cop. That we've got multiple retired cops living in our county.
I have another question. Being as how, and you were a good detective, and now you're back on patrol, if we're short-handed detectives, why can't they put you back into that position? Or why won't they put you back into that position? You want me to put that on a card so you can look that over at another time?
As far as I know, back in the 24 years, I was the only person taken out of the investigations division without cops. every other person that's been gone into detectives and come back out again, come out for a reason. They couldn't handle the caseload. They wanted to go into a different division. They wanted out in general. But as far as I know, I was the only one that's ever, in the 24 years that I've been there, the only one that was removed from the detective division without cause. Thank you.
Well, that's kind of like the cabal that I talked about. Like, who is that made the decision to take somebody who was very effective out, maybe to protect somebody that they're protecting? You know, that's just a side note.
Ultimately, that would have been a decision who at the time wasn't the undersheriff, but is our current undersheriff. He was the division sergeant at the time. He was my immediate supervisor. But he's the current undersheriff.
Do we have pie now?
With five. I technically have two more from Nancy Jackson.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Sorry, I know this is long, right?
It's all right.
Okay. These are questions that are really difficult to answer. First one is, in what fundamental ways would your administration of the Trinity County Sheriff's Department be different from the incumbents? I think it's a lot of what I've already talked about. I think it's my ability to communicate, my willingness to communicate, my willingness to listen, the accountability. There's some guys in the department right now who probably won't vote for me. And it's because they know that I'm going to start holding them accountable for things that they haven't been held accountable for. My availability to the public, I've always been available to my communities. That's not going to change. It'll obviously be different. I can't answer every call every single day, all the time, but I will answer the calls. So I just think that maybe somebody, I think one of the ladies that came through said she's never had a problem getting a hold of Mr. Saxon. I can't say that, I can honestly say she's the only person that's ever told me that. Every other person that I've talked to has said they've sent them emails, they've called him, left messages, and they've not received any type of response. I also know internally for the last 3 years, he is not, for the last 3 years, he has not been engaged with his officers inside the department. He doesn't know us. He doesn't know our names. He knows my name because I'm noisy, but he doesn't know everybody's names. And you can't wake up after 3 years and go, oh, and start talking to people because it's time to get somebody's vote. And then you can't figure out why people won't talk to them. You've ignored them for 3 years. You have to be personal. But it has to be genuinely personal. You can't just start asking them questions about their family, and when they don't answer you, you're like, well, I tried. It doesn't work, But you have to be genuinely invested in your people. And that is something that I have been, even when I've gotten kickback from that. I'm genuinely invested in our community, but I'm genuinely invested in our department. And what happens inside, what goes on inside, reflects what goes on outside. And it's bad right now. It's the worst it's ever been. What strategies have you learned and successfully applied in order, as a female, to be on equal footing with your department colleagues? And then she writes, that is, how do you successfully navigate a male-dominant field?
More women.
I can't tell you the real answer.
Yeah.
But it's communication. It's organizational skills. It's handling myself. I've been a deputy on the street for a long time, and I handle my business. I take care of my calls. I try not to get in too many fights, because there's nobody to back me up anyways. There's only one or two of us, and one's on the other end of the county, I mean, you have to do your job. And I've done my job, and I've done my job well, and I have good communication skills, although tonight maybe it doesn't seem like that. I do have good communication skills, and I do have good organizational skills and time management skills. And these guys know that they can come to me. They know if they have questions, these new guys we've got on the street, they know when they have questions that they can come to me, and they know they're going to get a good answer. And if I don't have the answer, I don't BS them. Call the DA. He's going to have a great answer for you because I don't have a good answer for you. Or I'll call the DA. Here, now I've got an answer for you. I'm not afraid to say, I don't know. You know, it's who I am. I'm not going to BS anybody. If I don't have an answer, I don't have an answer. Maybe I have the ability to research it and get back to you. That's what I've done for those guys. I don't know if I've successfully put myself on equal footing with my colleagues. It probably depends on who you talk to.
Yeah.
Some of the guys, they don't like how I do business. And it's because I hold everybody, including myself, to the highest standard. And not a lot of people like that. They really don't. I get accused of being rough about that. The way I look at it is I need to be better than me every single day. And my expectation is that you're doing the same thing. And if you're not trying to be a better cop every single day, what are you doing? Why are you here? We're not perfect. We can get better every single day. 24 years in, 10 years in, 5 years in, 30 years in. We can always be better. I still read my reports. I listen to my interviews, the audio recording of my interviews. And every single time I hear something, I'm like, oh, I missed that. Like they say something or they didn't say something. I mean, it's a never-ending learning environment. And if you think you've got it all figured out, you're in the wrong job.
Amen.
I really wish everyone was full.
I gotta say though, remember at the fair when you gave me your cell phone number? You wrote it down on a card. I called it because I heard a question about something personal. And you know who I got?
No.
Jayme Simmons.
What?
Yeah.
Do why?
I don't know why, but I read it and I don't know, but we had a great conversation. But I didn't get to talk to
Hey,
you.
Jayme answered the phone. It was just the wrong Jayme.
That was so weird.
That is so weird.
Yeah, because I really wanted to talk to you, and then Jayme Sule. Simmons Sule.
Interesting.
She was, is this Victoria? Yeah, it is. And you're the one, Jayme.
If you go fishing on the reservoir, I know that that's fishing game department, but when they over say, oh, don't worry about it, we go higher in their ranks.
I feel like, and I'm not going to be able to quote it to you, but I feel like there's actually a county ordinance.
Because I know that you guys for net fish in the reservoir with a thing.
There's no water contact at the reservoir by anything,
Right.
by county ordinance.
Yeah, I was
Just
pretty
like
sure
there's
there's a
no
county ordinance.
camping or anything other than day use.
Right. And I'm pretty sure no one can be in the water, not animals or
No.
Right.
people are walking.
There's big signs up there, tell you that.
Yeah, but is there a fishing, is there specifics to the fishing portion of the?
No, you just have to have a fishing license is all, and you can only fish during daylight hours.
During daylight?
Yeah.
Okay, I knew there was some code on it. Like I said, I can't.
Well, we've heard a lot of reports of people net fishing, actually having a dinghy that they pull in after hours. And
You know,
it's very frustrating and
Yeah.
we don't
Especially
know.
the fishing game doesn't have a hotline for nighttime. So
Yeah.
You're not even supposed to be in the reservoir after the.
Well, and no boats can be on the reservoir at any point.
there's
Right.
people living out of the
I know, we had one guy that was camped up there taking baths, that's been 3 years ago, they finally let him out.
Yeah.
The newcomers here are using
Well-
fishing nets with dinghies.
So it is a fish and game issue.
Right.
Do you work with them very closely?
I do. I have a really good rapport
It's
with.
also Craig Ayers, because Craig Ayers one has to take care
Well,
of the
he
water.
said to talk to Fish and Game.
Yeah, so, but as far as the county ordinance goes, any of us can issue that citation. So if we were to, if someone was to be up there and we were called up there and we caught them, I mean, it would just be a level of education to our deputies of that code ordinance.
No, like I said, it does not work.
They do. My guy does.
Okay.
My guy. I call him my guy, because they're all mine.
Yeah.
It's when you're
They're
a
all
dispatcher for 6 years, they're all your guys,
Also, they
right?
will respond after hours.
Yeah, I think it's just getting a hold of the right person. His name's Jason Smith. And I
just know
believe,
that, when Clarkson ran, he said he was in a situation, and a deputy 3 times a week in the office over here, so we would talk to him. We have never seen that.
it's not ever gonna happen
No.
that way.
No, he stood there, that's how he got elected, because he had a really good thing to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, there are deputies over here,
Yeah.
but as far as sitting at the office and, yeah,
I remember at the arcade, 20,000, they used to be on their office all the time.
at this office,
Yeah, the things.
they're in there, yes, but they don't,
Answer the door.
like answer the door and answer the phones in the sense of, like at the sheriff's office in Weaverville, there's records people to answer, and if you ask for a deputy can respond. It's not a manned subdivision, so the deputies go there. Right now, they don't spend much time there because we demolished the inside of it to remodel it, and then that money got spent somewhere else, and it's literally gutted. There's like a printer laying on the floor, there's no flooring, and there's one desk piled with a bunch of stuff, and they have no workspace over there. So when they're doing their
I just
reports
know
and
that
stuff,
he promised that, so, and that turned a lot of people in his favor, yeah. They never did that. A lot of stuff he ran on didn't happen.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but definitely Jason Smith is,
And he's fishing games.
he's fishing game. And so if you can just get a message, like you can call the regular fishing game office and just leave a message for him to call you. I don't know what his schedule is like these days, but I know he's still assigned, and this is his area, is A4 to Southern
Okay,
Trinity.
thank you.
You got a good job at it, you know,
Yes, yes I do.
yeah. Beating you and knowing you. I love you.
So SPCA is part of the sheriff department too, right? The animal
SPCA.
shelter?
The TASA, the animal shelter is under the
It's part of
purview.
sheriff.
It is under the purview of the sheriff, yeah. They do have their own budget, but it's still under the umbrella of the sheriff's office. Yeah,
We have a big problem with dogs attacking livestock.
yes, we do.
I had 6 dogs come to my property almost
That
all
one
my
goes, a
dogs.
lot of the homeless, if they all come in from the knowledge.
Right. Well, a lot of it is the growers too, they get dogs and when they
Yeah.
leave,
Well,
they
they
leave
have
dogs
that.
here.
Yeah,
I always thought that it would be a good part of the regulations for a grower to be a resident, not just come, grow, and leave.
yeah,
That's what's happening. I mean, we got people from Minnesota growing here, and they have multi-million-dollar plantations, right? They're taking money away. from
and
them.
every other state,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been.
yeah.
Oh, yes. No, live here.
He
Yeah.
lived here, but he
Lived
part of
here.
community, and then benefited
Right.
from.
Yes.
That was brought up, I remember that being discussed, but it was shot down as being unconstitutional or something that you couldn't.
To force people to live here,
Yeah.
to do what they want on their private land.
Well, is the water private? Is the electricity electricity private? It's all part of being
Well,
there.
it depends on the type of property they're growing on.
They're just throwing it away and killing the animals, taking all the water. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't care.
No.
Yeah, well, and the part of it is we just go back to funding. There's no money tree. But that's the problem right now. We have the ability to get money from the growers who are doing it wrong.
Exactly.
And we're not.
And there is the ability to run their stupid butts out of here. If the merchants wouldn't sell to them, they would have to go somewhere else.
Well, and the other side of that argument is they're still gonna grow here. They'll just buy their stuff in Reading or buy their stuff on the coast on their way here.
But it costs them a heck of a lot more.
Sometimes.
What happened to sheriff costs?
Yeah.
They kind of disbanded in terms.
And I see the buildings go.
Yeah, they've turned it. They've kind of taken Neighborhood Watch and Posse and they turned it all into the auxiliary. And I know some of them. I know they, but I don't know most of them. I know they fundraise for like the canines and some stuff like that. I know a couple of them, like when we have fires and stuff, they've been a big help. Just kind of the day-to-day operation stuff, like getting meals out to, we bring in the deputies from other areas to control the evacuated areas. And so they would do things like take them lunches and take them dinners, from the fire king and stuff like that. So they're kind of
still around though.
They're still around. There's just only a couple of them that function like that, and the rest of them, I'm not sure what they do.
What do they do with the posse grounds?
So what?
Sheriff's posse grounds.
I have no idea. I don't even know if we owned that from the beginning. If we still,
Sheriff's posse, they got a 99-year lease on that.
yeah, I don't even know where
I got
that's at.
paperwork for it. I don't know where it went after. I got all the cowboys are dead. All the old cowboys are dead. That's where a lot of the posse went.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can barely keep our fire department going for volunteers.
Well, and Whitney brought up a good point. We've got this permitting process for these large grows, and I don't know off the top of my head the whole process of being permitted, but he brought up the fire hazard that comes with these major operations. These massive generators, these, the lights, these big, for as far as you can see, greenhouses and all this stuff.
It created a hazmat.
Yeah,
And
and all the pesticides and stuff that come along with what they're doing. And Whitney said, as a fire department member, if a fire starts out there, what are we supposed to do?
we have no information. The permit process does not include the local fire departments,
Right.
even giving us the information who has a permit, who doesn't.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
I wrote to my supervisor and asked him for this, for clarification. He never bothered to get back to me, so.
Is that the current one or
The
recent?
current one.
The current?
Nobody gets back to anybody anymore in this county.
Yeah.
Now, just in case you
Answer your
guys
phone.
knew him, Jeff Wallace, he used to be fire chief on the department. He passed last night.
Oh, yeah. I did hear that.
Good friend.
Jeff Wallace, yes.
I recognize the name. I don't know if I know him personally or not, but I do recognize the name.
Little guy.
Yeah.
You've got to go.
Yep.
Past their bedtime. Us our seniors.
What do you mean? I was thinking mine too.
I turned into a pumpkin.
Are you going to have things to stick in yards?
I will have signs to put in yards. We can't do it until 90 days before the election.
Okay.
Make sure we get one.
We hope they can change.
Here are some fundraising items available to help support the candidate for Trinity County Sheriff, Jayme Bayley. Thank you for supporting the candidate Jayme Bayley for Trinity County Sheriff 2022.